This is the Comin Home Podcast with John Allen. And welcome, everybody, to this episode of Comin Home with John Allen. That's my podcast. Thank you for coming to the radio broadcast, which is called Comin Home with John Allen. You guys see that little name recognition there? Today, my guest is Miss Lexie Koren. I absolutely adore you. Look at that smile. Look at mine, too. We're mirroring each other. I'm so glad you're here.
I am super excited about everything that's going on with you.
Oh, well, thank you. And likewise, you have some things going on as well, and we're going to talk about that. It's been a while since I've spoken with you and seen you. That's my fault, though. That's my fault. It's not people. It's not her fault. She's a loving, caring sister. It's me who isolated myself and kind of pulled myself back from all things social for a while. But I'm back.
Hey, welcome back.
I'm back. Thank you. It's good to be back.
It's good to see you.
It's good to be back. You know, how are you doing these days? You have a song called Me hace bien.
Yes.
Are you doing well? The translation of that song, people, by the way, is?
It makes me feel good.
Yes. So there comes my question. Are you feeling good? Are you doing well these days?
I am. I'm doing very well. I've had some periods where I've been quite down.
Well, you know, as we all have, like I said, I pulled myself out of the mix to kind of get myself together and strengthen myself up. Do you find that you have to do that from time to time?
Yes, I find I'm an ambivert, which and with the years,
I wouldn't think of you as an ambivert.
Right? So
tell the listeners what that is.
So it's a mixture between extrovert and introvert. So in order to feel recharged, I need alone time. So I need to go away and do my own thing for a little while. But I also need to be out with people. And there's a limit.
So you've got to have both.
I got to have both.
There's
but
a
I need
limit.
to balance it.
You have to balance it in your way.
Yes. Otherwise, I just get depleted and I shut myself out. Or
is it that you give too much and you have that, I don't know, that empathetic part of you that just empath, sympath that just has to give, even though you know it's not best for you? Is that what it is, or?
I think at times I've had that, but mostly I think it's just it's energy, right? So we expand, we give energy, we take energy, we absorb, we are reading people, and just I get really stressed with like crowded spaces, for instance.
I see. Yeah.
So I'm at my best when I can have say 3 days alone, and then I'm fully charged to go out in the world and meet people.
I think I can identify with that.
Yeah.
I would call myself. I'm an introvert who at times can be an unwilling extrovert.
All right.
You know, some people would say that's an ambivert, but I take it a little step back, and I'm even more towards the introvert side. You know, I can go out, I can do a show for stand-up, and you know, 5 minutes after I get off the microphone, I need to get out of there. Yeah. So there comes the excuses. You know, I'll blame it on the kids. You know, I got to put the kids to bed, or you know, my wife is leaving for work, so I've got to get home, and I'm gone. And you know, that introvert thing kicks in as soon as I'm done doing what I'm supposed to do on the microphone.
Well, that's really interesting.
Is that ambivert?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to put any labels on you, but
thank you.
What's
I got to be careful what I ask for.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think there's something interesting about being alone on stage that is very. It suits introverts. I do that the same. I mean, I'm on stage as well.
Exactly. Isn't that strange though about us? we consider ourselves quite the introvert, but we get on the stage, we'll sing, we'll dance, we'll do this stuff on the mic. What is that? Is that just the complexity of humanity? People are complex.
We are layered, and I was thinking about that this morning. You know, in the shower, I have my brightest thoughts.
Me too. Yeah.
and then I forget them. But I think part of what I was thinking was all these layers. There is no one answer to thing. You know, when you talk about depression, for instance, it isn't just it's a chemical imbalance. Yes, it can be a chemical imbalance, but it's also, you know, it can be systemic. It can be a trauma triggered by trauma. There are so many layers to it, and therefore there are so many ways to treat it.
Is it a safe thing to say that at times the level or the deepness of a depression for the individual, yes, it's the chemical thing, the physiological thing, but it can also be what type of crowd, not how big the crowd is, but what type of crowd or friends, circle of friends that they surround themselves with. There's some people out there, if they're not aware of what depression looks like, they can actually be contributing to it unknowingly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
it's an educational process, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And the more we talk about it, the better it is. So we
True.
can, remove the shame, because shame tends to be the thing that
gets in the way.
It isolates us, and it becomes toxic if we're not met with empathy.
Well, that shame gets in the way of any betterment of the individual situation. I was talking with my previous guest from last weekend. Another guy, a man who people, when they look at him on the outside, they would think, oh, he's a tough guy, Bosch, as we would say here in Norwegian. Someone who doesn't talk about feelings. He's got to be hard and tough and man up, as the saying goes. But we talked about how that image needs to be fought against. I'm not saying a man shouldn't be a man in the traditional sense, but a man in the traditional sense should also include a certain amount of compassion, a certain amount of willingness to communicate, a certain amount of willingness to share feelings in order to better oneself and those around one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's we've gendered feelings, which is a shame. Yeah, because it's a shame using the word shame again, but because we are, we're human, and we experience the specters of feelings, all of us.
We are complex beings. The human that walks just one trail and never looks from side to side is living a boring and limited life, I would say. You've got to touch on all of your sides. And some people want to label it, the feminine side or the masculine side. I just call it the humanness of us all.
Yeah,
we have all those feelings. We have all of those different ways of looking at things, viewing things, reacting to things, and why should it be suppressed?
Exactly, yeah. I believe that the more you get to know yourself and the more you get to accept the different parts of yourself, the more those definitions kind of disappear.
Well, yeah.
And then you become what you're saying, you reach for the humanity within yourself and within others.
When we suppress these things within ourselves, can it be said then that we're not living life the way it should be lived? We talked a little bit on the telephone about living life, about being alive.
Yes, what makes you come alive?
Yeah, talk about that a little bit. You see, it seems like your thoughts are kind of pointing in that direction. I've been following you. I've always followed you from day one on social media, and you have such uplifting, life-oriented things. Can you talk about what's going on in your mind?
Thanks. Yeah. I've been asking this question for myself and for a lot of the people that I work with, and it's that, what makes you come alive? Because we as humans in this modern world tend to forget, and we are busy with life, routines, and paying bills, and doing the jobs and the 9 to 5s or 8 to 4, whatever they do in your country, and at one point we forget to play. And the moment we forget to play, we lose touch and connection with that part of ourselves that makes us come alive. Yeah. But we don't see that connection there. We forget about it because we're supposed to be serious and adults. And at what point do we forget to play?
That reminds me of a quote from Carlos Santana. He made this quote way back in the 80s. He said that, of course, there's a problem if you as an adult are acting childish, but all adults should act childlike.
Yes.
Childish versus childlike. You have to remember to play. You have to remember to have fun. You have to keep your feet on the ground on what really is important, because kids, well-raised kids in a safe environment, they know what it means to truly be alive.
Yes.
Childlike is quite the thing to aspire to, I believe.
And there's a difference. Like you say here, there's a big difference between childish and childlike. Yeah. The childish person is a kind of an arrested development.
Narcissists?
Well, yeah, you can have that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some of that in there. But it's the childlike person, that is someone who is in flow in connection with that. I call it eros, and it is that the life force within us that comes out in creativity, it comes out in music, it comes out when you connect with nature, when you meditate, anything that makes you feel like you can take deep breaths and be grateful for being alive.
What do you say to the person who hasn't explored any artistic elements within themselves? What do you say to the person who works, 60, 70 hours a week? What would you say to that person when they hear you say a comment like that and they're like in touch with, what am I supposed to be in touch with? I'm out here working, I'm making my money.
Yeah.
That goes kind of against this concept of being grounded and actually living in the sense of life that we're talking about now. What about those people?
Well, my instinct wants to say revolt, but
yeah.
And it's also the thing that we're seeing around the world. People are saying this is not normal. Working 80 hours a week and for somebody else and for a minimum than a minimum wage, it's not human. It's not. It's exploitative. So, do you want to? What do? You get together and you make changes.
Because I would, if we go back, let's say we go back 300 years, okay? Let's go back 500 years, okay? Yesterday was Columbus Day, and I put that in quotes, Columbus Day. Let me just cross that out virtually and say Happy Indigenous Peoples Day instead. But okay, yesterday was Columbus Day. Now, if we go back to the day before Columbus landed in the Caribbean, that place that we now call the United States was full of people who were truly living. I wouldn't say that life was easier back then. You had to work in order to survive. But I'm going to bet that people back then, and for several hundred years since then, had a concept of balance that still allowed them to play, that still allowed them to be childlike. When would you say in the Western world, when did that end? When did people become more focused on this 9 to 5, this money thing, and making that the priority instead of life itself being the priority?
I think the moment we started dividing in territories. So
well, that's pretty early on then.
Well, if you look at the history of everything, and you divide in territory, you find out that if you work the land and then you get more power that way. You need to have people working the land. How do you find the people who can work the land? Well, you have children.
Okay,
you have children, and then how do you control those means? Well, you need to control the person that gives birth to the children. So you control the woman and you control the children. And then you start putting people under you and slavery,
subjugating others.
Yeah. So that's kind of the build up to it. So it's about territory, it's about capital, and it's about supremacy. That's the start of everything. And then you look at who is doing the supremacy, who are the ones who believe that they are above everyone else. Yeah. And then from there you get new ideas, and then you get industrialization. So you have to get the big machines, and there we go. Mass production.
So if we go back to that initial expansion of the thought of, I need others to do this work that I need to do for me, that's where it started. The idea of control and subjugation. That's where it started. I call it a campaign against the enjoyment of what life really is about. Wow.
Yes.
What the heck is wrong with us? Why can't we see? I mean, in all seriousness, I don't understand why we can't see this. You can be, we have room for Jeff Bezos. We have room for Elon Musk and those types. But it seems like a majority of society is catering to that, if not actively lifting it up. Instead of looking at the indigenous shaman who may not have all that money, definitely doesn't have all that money, but he certainly has a peaceful aura that is, you can feel that. Just like you can feel the wealth of a Jeff Bezos, you can feel the peacefulness of a shaman or an indigenous person who doesn't have this capitalistic, possession-oriented life. And when you can feel that, and everybody can feel that, you don't need to be spiritual to feel that. When you can feel that and you see the difference in those people, why would we not gravitate towards one as opposed to the other? What is it that gets in the way of what is natural? Because it's natural to want peace. It's natural to want to give to others. It's natural to not want to subjugate others.
It's a beautiful thought. And
Am I naive?
Oh, I don't want to say
you can
that.
say it. You can put that label on me.
I wish more people thought like you. But the thing is that we are, as humans, we are wired differently as well. We are wired for connection, but some people are also wired with predators. So
we are, in the sense that, back in the day, we had to hunt and kill to survive. Absolutely.
And we're still doing it.
We're still doing it.
You have the wars, you have all the violence, everything. So there's something predatory within us.
But haven't we bastardized the concept of war? War has always happened. Mankind has always been in conflict with one another to a certain degree. But I would wonder if the degree to which we engage in war now has gone above that natural inclination to go to war.
I think we have disconnected. So it all goes back to disconnection. So if we disconnect ourselves from the humanity of others, it is going to be easier for us to reach for, to get a drone and kill a family, and it's like, oh well, it's part of war, and because it's the machine doing it, it's not us, and then language is a very powerful tool as well.
Absolutely.
So if you use, like, say, in the refugee crisis, people, I remember back in the UK, I lived in London for many years, and there was a period, I think it was 2015, where the politicians were saying it's a swarm of refugees coming. So when you dehumanize people, it is easier to think of yourself as above them. It's an us and them situation.
Now, do you think the dehumanization on the political level, do you think that is an active, thought-out thing, or is it just something we've become used to? And to dehumanize the black and brown people, nobody really thinks of it anymore. It's just what they do. Do you think it's that, or do you think it's an active process?
I think it's some of it is active, but it is, and it's an old formula that is used to control people, and it's easier to control people when they. I mean, you can see it now with the revelations about Facebook and everything.
Sure.
It is known. It is the people who run it know what to do and know how to get more clicks and know how to agitate people.
It's quite the sinister process.
It is.
They've studied this stuff.
Yeah.
They've applied science to figure out how to manipulate people. Mm-hmm. Talk about subjugating people. Wow. There you go. That may be the prime example of it, actually.
Yes. So having the how do we go back into ourselves? Because it's easy to fall into a sort of a spiral of, oh my God, what are we going to do? The humanity is effed. So that's when I think let's just step back and connect with yourself. Yeah. And the first thing is your breath. You're here now.
Talk about that.
Right?
Because that's a physical thing that can affect you mentally and spiritually.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it with breathing?
Well, it is the one thing that comes for free, and we have all access to it. And without it, we die. So, but we tend to disrupt our breathing unconsciously when we're stressed.
That tensing up, which then is going to restrict the chest cavity, which then is going to belabor the lungs, that type of thing.
That type of thing. It sounds like you're familiar with it.
Well, I try to keep myself informed about those kind of things. I've been on an 18-month run, if you will, with even more focus on the physiological connection to the mental connection to the emotional connection to the spiritual, the body, mind, spirit thing. And it doesn't have to be some sort of crazy metaphysical, weirdo, leftist type of thing. To me, it's just about getting back in touch with who I am and who I am as opposed to who I'm supposed to be. And is there an opposition in that? And if there is, what am I doing to remedy that? It's simple, really, for me anyway.
That's brilliant. Who you are as opposed to who you're supposed to be. And we find the illness and stress when we run our lives on the supposed to be, on the shoulds, right? So
shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Exactly. So and stress is behind all kinds of ailments.
Absolutely.
And part of my work with Eros and that life energy is to is to de-stress. Because when you de-stress, you are opening up to things that you may never have thought about. You're kind of opening doors there to pleasure and to excitement and to creativity and to feelings of relaxation and I want to say healing, but that too. Why not?
Sure, absolutely.
And part of that is the meditation, and I always talk about, it's 5 minutes. You don't need more.
You don't need more than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes is better sometimes, but you can also lose focus after a while. So you just use the time you need to get there, right?
Yeah. So put your feet on the ground if you can, and take a deep breath. I start with 3 breaths, like deep into belly breaths, and then when I release them, I try to make a sound come out.
Okay. Almost like a mantra. Almost like
Just to get in, just to know that, to make sure that that you are connected.
Yeah.
And then take it from there. But start there small. That's a good way. I also do something with the pen, follow the pen. So pen on paper. And I just go wherever it wants me to go. And that's
interesting.
Yeah. And it makes me relax.
See, in the way we talk about meditation now, I hope it makes it sound simple to the listeners and for the viewers. Because a lot of people, you mentioned meditation, they think, oh my gosh, that's so complicated. I can't do that. People, you can do that. It can be so simple as to start. You don't even have to think of it as meditation, but just think of it as your time. Everybody has time to isolate themselves for 5 minutes in the day. Just start doing that, where you just put your phone away. You're not looking at a screen. Just go somewhere quiet and sit and see what happens. And then once you're used to doing that, just sitting for 5 minutes, now you can start actively attempting to put your mind in that peaceful place. Find your mantra or find your method to actually start dipping your toe into what meditation is. And meditation's a very individual thing, You just taught me something new. Follow the pen. I never, But of course, that's a way to meditate. Of course. Yeah. It's individual, and it's whatever works for that individual. You've started painting a lot.
Yes.
Could you look at that as a form of meditation?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
I have, I've been painting for many years, but not. Yes, that's my dress. So I painted. Part of my meditation practice, this is a couple of years ago, was to do flow painting. So I put some acrylic paint together with some water, and I mix it up, and then I throw it on canvas, put some music on, dance, put lights on, do a little ritual, whatever floats your boat, you do your thing. I did my thing, and then this image, like on a large canvas, came of a dancing shaman, and I thought, this is brilliant. But it's a really big canvas, and I can't take it with me wherever I go, because I'm on the move. London, Chile, Paris,
my
Bergen,
studio.
your studio. I'm in Drammen, and I can't carry the big canvas with me. So I thought, what if I could wear it? And this is what I'm wearing today.
That is so cool.
I could stand up. I could do that later, but I like it.
It's very nice.
Yes, it's a wrap dress. A little bit on the cleavage side, but it's fine. I'm like,
nothing wrong with cleavage.
Nothing wrong with cleavage. Just
and you people watching on YouTube, you can see that dress is actually patterned after a painting that Lexie made. I saw it on Instagram. How do people find you? Can you tell them where they find you on Instagram?
You can find me at MS Alexandra Koren.
At MS Alexandra, Alex with an X, Alexandra Koren, Koren. Check her out, people. Not only to find that beautiful painting that inspired this dress, but just, your Instagram is very uplifting in that almost everything you post, and maybe this is me being such an admirer of the work that you do, but everything you post, I study it. Okay, is there a message here? And if there isn't, if it's just for fun, well, maybe that's the message, to just have fun for that moment. But what is the message here? What is she saying? That's my way of looking at your social media. It gets me to think. I think the first thing I ever saw of you on Instagram, it was a soliloquy, a monologue, where you were speaking. If you just look at the surface, it was quite sexual, and that's it. Mm-hmm. But when you listen to it, it's not just sexual, but it's a sexual statement. It's a statement of sex. And there was nothing filthy about it. And I'm like, this woman is deep. And then that's when I contacted you and we actually spoke for the first time. But that's the kind of post that you put out there. Now, is that part of your, would you say that that's part of the work you do to put things out there that are going to help people guide themselves to their place of peace, to their place of contemplation?
Contemplation, yes.
Yeah.
I'd love to inspire contemplation.
You certainly do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Can you guys tell? I just love this woman. I love you and the work that you do. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah. I mean, that first piece, it was part of a series called Fridays in My Heart, and
yes.
In Spanish it was called Fridays in My Heart, Viernes en mi corazón, and it was also about the gaze. So. The male gaze has been part of media and Hollywood films and literature for a very long time. So you see the woman or female sexuality through the eyes of the heterosexual man.
Yeah.
And I was interested in turning that around and talking about really personal stuff, like sexual fantasies, and then but the video doing it in a very sort of mundane sort of way. I'm washing the dishes.
That's right. That was an important element. Yeah, yeah. I forgot to say that. Yeah, you were washing it. Yeah, just tell them. Paint the picture. Yeah.
Yeah. So this woman with or plucking her hair, facial hair, and and then you can hear it.
You're actually in front of a sink, right? Wasn't the water running? The faucet?
I did. I think 3 or 4 videos or something like that. So so washing the dishes, you can see that, and then you hear this really like descriptive sexual encounter, or the wants and needs of this person that's washing dishes, I'm doing, what was the other thing I was cooking, or I was washing. The other one was a flip it, so I'm washing my sex toys, my all the little wonderful things that make me come on a daily basis. But in the voiceover, you could hear, I should get some avocado. So
that's right.
Yeah. So playing with what is expected, what you see and what you hear. And so that
beautifully, it was just a beautiful series of messages. It's art. You're an artist.
Yes.
You're a lot of things. You're an artist by drawing. You're an artist through your thespian skills, which come very much forward on your Instagram account. You're an artist with your music. You have a need to express yourself. Where does that come from? Because not everybody has that need. I have it. Yeah. But not everybody has the need to express themselves, but you do.
Yeah. For me, if I don't do it, I get depressed.
So it's a therapeutic, it's an ongoing self-therapeutic process then.
Well, yes, you can call it that, or you can call it purpose.
There you go, yeah.
And that's my purpose, and if I'm not fulfilling my purpose, I fall into depression and my anxiety gets triggered. And it's not a nice place to be.
Who am I as opposed to who am I supposed to be?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's oxygen for me.
Interesting. I think that's the way it is for me, and I wonder if that's why I kind of started to fall off the deep end. See, I spent the whole pandemic actually putting words on my I don't want to say enjoyment of the isolation, but I put a lot of words on how I was coping with being isolated in a positive way. But I wonder if I was fooling myself, because I wasn't able to perform my music. I wasn't able to perform my stand-up. I kept my podcast going, but I couldn't have my guests here. So I was missing a lot of elements that I had previously been using to express myself. And that lack of self-expression made me sick.
Yes. Wow. Yeah.
I guess I'm kind of just now putting that together, that maybe I think I said it to you several times, I'm doing fine. Yeah, I miss people, but I'm doing fine during the pan. But in the end, it crashed. I crashed. I didn't burn, but I crashed at the end, and just kind of had to get myself together again. And expression.
It is expression, yeah. And
it's important.
And how can I ask you this?
Sure, ask.
And how?
Take the microphone a little. Let me just do this.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
There you go.
How do you, when you say you had to get yourself together, how do you do that?
What I did is I talked to some people who I was close with. You were one of them. And I said, because you and I had planned, I think we had planned on, this is when you had moved here to this town, and we had planned on meeting up, having a cup of coffee. And all of a sudden I realized, like 2 or 3 times in a row, I was like, canceling it or not really following through on the plan to meet with you. And then I started thinking, wow, I've done that to a couple of people. I'd been invited to people's homes and things like that. And I'm like, wow, I've been doing this to a lot of people. Why? And after a few days of not being able to figure out why I was doing that, I said, okay, I just need to regroup. So then I contacted some people. You were one of them. And I said, hey, look, and I'm paraphrasing because it was a different conversation for different people. But I told them, hey, look, I'm going through some things. I'm still depressed about my son passing. Obviously more depressed than I thought I was. That thing goes in waves. Today I'm fine about it, but tomorrow I might be a mess. But I had that conversation with people, and I said, please, remember, I love you, but I need to back up for a while. I need to just, you're still going to hear me doing my podcast, but the social thing, for now, I just need to cut off because I've got to find myself again. And I had that conversation with you in so many words. I had it with a few other of my close friends and people who I do different projects with. And I took that time to actively, it's a fact that I lost my son. He's gone, and I'm depressed, and I still don't know how to deal with that. And I think I had to go through that thought process over a period of time. I'm talking a couple months now, and then land on the fact that I'm not supposed to know how to deal with that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There will be days where I have to break that appointment that I had with someone who is a good friend. But what's important for me, because maybe I take it harder than that person who I stood up on a engagement with. Maybe they're like, okay, well, John's just busy, but I'll roll around in that and feel bad for breaking that agreement. I won't allow myself to acknowledge that I'm not breaking that agreement for any nefarious reasons. It's because I need to get myself together. Good God, I lost my son to an overdose. I have to allow myself to deal with that. And it took me a couple of months to get back to that point to where I will allow myself to deal with that. I have to give other people give me the space to deal with it. Why won't I give myself the space to deal with it? And that's what I landed on. It took me a couple of months. When was this? This was maybe in late July, early August that I had that conversation. So a couple of months after that, and now I'm back up on my feet, ready to talk with people, feeling better about myself and how I'm dealing with life. But that's an active process that the individual has to go to. And then I take it a step further in that I speak on it. I put it out there on my podcast. I'm putting it out there on my radio show because I think there might be one person out of the possibly millions who are listening who may find some comfort from my situation. So I put it out there.
Wow. It's such a huge thing you're doing, and so brave to be able to talk about this so publicly as well.
I'm not afraid of who I am. I think that who I am is a pretty decent guy. So then if people hear what that guy is all about, it can't be a bad thing. That's the way I look at it.
Not at all. An inspiration, yeah. And like you say, it comes in waves.
It does.
You don't get over something that big. You learn to live with it in a way. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's not going to go away. A couple of people have told me, oh, well, it'll fade in time. No, I don't think it will. I think my ability to deal with it will change over time. I'll become stronger over time to deal with it better. And so I think there's I don't want to talk too much about myself. I mean, it's great to talk about this so that people can possibly get some motivation from it. But I think it really boils back down to that thing about living life the way it's supposed to be lived, analyzing who you are and comparing that with who you're supposed to be. So my question to you as a therapist, how do people figure out who they're supposed to be?
Who they're supposed? I think of who they are. I think we have a bit different definitions there.
Okay.
Because
Let's break it down.
Who they're supposed to be can be a construction of what people expect from them, and that often leads to people coming into the therapy room and listen,
Yeah.
I don't know who am I supposed to be or who I am, and there's a lot of confusion there.
And
But
you don't
once-
have those answers as a therapist.
No.
Your job is to guide the person to that answer.
Yes,
Correct?
my job is to provide space, a safe space for exploration, to hold certain feelings that perhaps the person is not ready to hold yet or make sense of yet, to hold, to mirror, to deconstruct, to stay there in a non-judgmental way. So it's unconditional positive regard. And then giving permission to play and restoring the ability to play. That's sort of my main job, to help people restore their ability to play.
And you can't live life the way it's supposed to be lived if you can't play. Life is supposed to be fun. You've got to have that playful element there.
Yes.
That sense of, that childlike sense of exploration.
Yeah.
You know, you wake up, you may not wake up with a smile on your face, but you get to the point, at some point during the day, where you've got that smile on your face, you've got that desire to explore the day and explore yourself.
Find out what you enjoy. Again, the question is, what makes you come alive? Is it going to the forest for a walk? Is it watching birds fly over your garden? What is it? If you can note down 3 or 4 things that makes you, a piece of music that makes you go, oh my God, I love this song, or makes you want to move, a memory, anything like that, do that.
And write it down, people. Don't be afraid to actually sit down and start a journal and write these things down. You know, what is it that makes me happy? What is it that makes me motivated and inspired? And then write that down, because when you get in moments of anger or depression or less than a positive place in your life, it's so easy to forget those things. It should be ingrained in us what we need to be happy, but sometimes we lose track of that. But if you can just walk to a little notepad or some sort of journal, hey, this is what makes me happy, and I haven't done that today, and this is why I feel so bad, maybe. So let me try and do these things.
Yeah, do check-in, like daily check-ins on yourself.
That's so important, isn't it?
Where am I right now?
Yeah.
What am I feeling at this very moment?
Well, but that goes back to the meditation, the 5 minutes, right?
Yeah. It all goes back to that. What am I feeling? But if you want to go even deeper, what I often encourage people is to check out where and what have I been not allowed to do, either by other people when I was younger or by myself now as an adult. And what do I need to do to give myself permission to experience that? And basically dismantle the all ideas that are causing you challenges now, and not like positive challenges. The challenges that keep you stuck.
Yeah.
So go and look into that, because we're built up of prohibitions and permissions.
And it starts when we're young.
Yes,
Starts when we're children. Yeah.
And it's all about survival. I mean, they were there to make us live, right? So they served their purpose. But later on, if they're still there and they're keeping you stuck, then it's time to look at them and go, hang on a minute, I don't need these prohibitions anymore.
Yeah.
I want some permissions in my life.
Yeah. I love it. We're getting deep today. And I don't have my wading boots on. I'm wearing flip-flops.
Oh, no.
I don't have my water boots on, and we're getting this deep. But, you know, again, this is an example. This conversation that we're having right now is an example of my, you just fit, you fit in my life where I have been since the passing of my son, with this journey to try and understand life a little better, to try and understand humanity a little better, and to try and understand myself a lot better. How can that be done in practical terms? You know, I'm here, I do my own thing. I can take my 10 minutes, I can turn it into a half hour or an hour if I want to, and do that meditation thing and think, and then go out and act on it. But how can people who are still living the 9 to 5 actively try and ease into this different understanding of life, because everyone says they don't have time for anything. You know, I go to work and then I come home and my kids are here and then they have to go to bed and then I'm so tired. Yeah. How do people sort through all of that to find that time for their self-improvement and self-care? What's your suggestion?
Self-care being the most important one. I think if we pressure people into self-improvement, that's another layer of...
Yeah. Can I qualify that? I'm in a place where I'm looking to improve myself. I don't expect anyone to feel that they need to improve themselves. I'm saying for me personally, and this is important for those who are watching and listening, I need to improve myself. You know, I'm lacking in some areas and I know I'm lacking and I'm trying to improve myself, because that will then put me in a better position from which I can help my wife, my children, and the people who are close to me. So that's my own personal journey. But yes, no, it's not for me to say anyone needs to improve themselves. But for people to get to that place where they can engage in more self-care, what can they do to actively get there? We're busy these days.
Yeah, we're busy, and it's I feel for you. I mean, for people who are in that position, and I've been there myself, and I'm there sometimes too still, and it is that reconnecting. Just have a moment to reconnect with yourself and know that you are worthy. You are worthy of all the good things that you want and need, and
people need that reminder.
Yeah, you are worthy of love, and you're good enough, and you know you're a wonderful human being. And okay, sometimes you may be a little bit shitty, but that's okay.
We have to allow for that.
Yes.
And that comes from self-awareness. When you have self-awareness and you have that peace of mind about who you are, you'll accept that sometimes you can be a dickhead.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can be that jerk who just doesn't have time for anything. That's allowed. Yeah. It's allowed. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be giving all the time, because that can erase a part of your persona rather than build it up and strengthen you. And, we want to be the best version of ourselves. And that means we have to accept the lumps with the smoothness in our personalities.
Absolutely. I was just thinking, self-realization, it's kind of a privilege. So when you have... Is it? Well, when you have all your basic needs met...
Okay, yeah, you're right. There you go. Yeah.
Then you have time and space and mental space to go, listen, I'm going to go and improve myself, or take and go to the next level. But if your needs are not met, your basic needs are not met, then that's when I think it's I feel a bit icky about saying to people, oh well, go into yourself and connect with who you are when you are working 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
That's when I think this kind of healing is a collective healing.
I see.
Instead of the individual one.
I see, yeah.
So we can do, at a world basis, we need both. We need the individual and we need the collective. But the collective goes when enough people who are going through those difficult times get together and say, no, we're ending this and we're getting our needs met. That's when you get change. And
that's why I am people will hear me very often talk about how men need to open up. Mm-hmm. This thing where men are supposed to be tough and hard-hearted. More of us who are willing to open up and speak about our issues need to get together and say enough of that. And I'm not saying men should be less of men. Maybe we need to redefine what modern manhood is. But it's definitely not being closed up and not expressing one's full spectrum of emotions. It's definitely not that.
There's lots of really lovely groups around the world right now, men's group, where men are getting together and talking about their feelings, and they're finding their own way of expressing it. And I think that's really important for guys to get together and then explore liksom. I have Norwegian in there.
Hey, we are in Norway. It does affect us a little bit. So
the coffee hasn't kicked in yet now.
When you start asking me for a snack of lutefisk, then we have a problem, okay? Yeah. So that you throw a Norwegian word in here and there, that's fine.
I get liksom and I get also.
Those I do that two. I do that too. Oh my gosh.
So funny.
But you've been in Norway so long. I'm surprised you don't mix it up more than you do.
Well, it's
I'm multilingual. So
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Yeah,
What,
so it's
four,
Spanish.
three languages?
I speak
English?
3 fluently, and then French because
French
I lived
also,
in
yeah.
France, but it's
Yeah.
not fluent.
You're quite the cosmopolitan.
Yes, I am.
Where do you think in what place have you lived that has given you the most?
Oh, that's difficult to say because every place has been important to me at every stage. I know that, for instance, London is sort of a big piece of my heart.
Yeah.
And I used to when I was 5 years old living in Chile, I said to people, I'm going to live in London when I'm a grown up.
Yeah, that's right. You told me that. Yeah, you
Yeah.
wanted to do that since you were a kid. Yeah.
So I did. I moved to London when I was 19.
That's where you did most of your studying, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where I trained as a psychotherapist.
Yeah.
That's where I took my MA, and I trained as an actress there as well. So that's a lot of my big chunk of my life. I lived there. So that's been very important, and a lot of my friends, my closest friends I met them in London.
Okay.
But then I have I have Chile,
That's
which
home.
is that's where I was born, and that's where I have family. That's where I have a lot of friends as well, because I lived there too for a couple of years, a few years ago.
Oh, did you? I didn't know that.
did, yeah. That's where I did stand up, and
That's right. I knew that. You told me that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
and then Paris. Paris was really important to me. I lived there for a year, and that totally changed. That broke the good girl in me, because I was not a rebel in that sense. I was always doing what was right, and
I see.
very much like that.
Were you working when you were in Paris, or was it more of a long vacation type of thing?
Well, oh my goodness. So, right before my first degree was in media studies. So I did television broadcast journalism, and then I came to Norway, and I got a job working at the regional, and on the West Coast, the regional news, and I was interviewing lots of goats and that sort of thing, and I was very young, and the artist in me that hadn't really come alive was screaming inside. It's like, I can't do this. I can't interview another lady that's collecting porcelain dolls. I need something else. So I did something really impulsive, and I went off after my contract ended. I went off to Paris. I didn't speak the language. I didn't know anyone there.
You just packed up and went to Paris just like that.
I packed up and left. One-way ticket.
Guts. I love it.
I was 22, and I had a tarot deck. So I lived by reading the tarot to people, and performing in the streets, and singing in bars, and
wow.
Yeah. And I had
what a cool life. Doing that in Paris. I mean, that's like straight out of a novel of some sort.
Well, yes. I mean, it was lots of fun in the beginning, but not so glamorous during winter.
Being out on the streets like that, performing.
Yeah,
I can
performing,
imagine.
like that. But you know, when you're young, you do things.
You do what you do. Yeah.
But it was necessary for me to break out of the mold of, this is what I should do, and I should get good grades, and I should have the perfect job, and then I should, which was suffocating me. And then I went the other way around and just became a street performer, and reading the tarot outside the Louvre.
What a romantic life. Now, how long were you doing that?
For a year.
1 year.
I went to drama school there as well.
How did that work, not knowing French?
That was very, I wouldn't have done that now, but back in the day, I was like, I can do this, I can do anything.
Young and full of enthusiasm and curiosity, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a bilingual school, but I was the only one speaking English there.
Okay.
There's the Studio d'Acteur, so the actor studio in Paris, molded after the actor studio in New York.
Are the French really as rude about non-French speakers as I have one experience with that. It was the first time I was here in Norway, and I was on my way back, and I had a changeover it was in Paris at the airport. I don't remember if it was Charles de Gaulle or the other airport there. Anyway, in Paris, and my flight was so late getting there, I had to book a new flight to get the second leg home. And I walked up to the Air France counter, and start talking to this woman about getting, and she gave me the dirtiest look and said something in French. And then I'm pretty sure she probably could have spoken English to me, but she went and got some other guy and brought him over, and then he spoke English. And I'm like, whoa, maybe this is true. The French are rude.
Well, I wouldn't say the whole.
I'm playing a little bit.
Yeah, but Paris is, from what I remember, it's been a few years since I lived there. From what I remember, it was very proud about the French culture and French language. And
But was it to the point to where you felt as an outsider because their pride was kind of insular?
I had yes and no, because I think this long history of France not liking English speaking, so anything that's Anglo is sort of, oh gosh, no. And but
I got a taste of that at the airport.
Yeah,
so.
I can imagine. Yeah, sorry about that. I have my other card, the Latin American one, and so I use that a lot.
Yeah.
And it made it easier for me to learn to speak French as well, because it's
quite
the
similar.
same family. Yeah.
I really need to get my skills in Spanish back. I was fluent. I used it daily at work when I was living there outside of Chicago. And since I've learned Norwegian, I've lost most of my Spanish. I can follow a conversation pretty well, but for me to try and express myself in Spanish, it's gone. And that's a shame, because it's such a beautiful language.
Maybe listening to music in Spanish could help, like my song.
Yeah, Me hace bien by Lexie Koren. No, if I were to go, I have a book in this cabinet right here. I have a lesson book in Spanish. It's like a second level Spanish. And if I were to open that book and go back and study the grammar structure, then at that point it would be a matter of picking up Spanish books and then relearning the vocabulary, or getting picking up my memories of what the vocabulary is. And I think within a matter of months, I could probably converse in Spanish if I would just start with learning the grammar structure again. Because if I were to open that book, I'm sure within a couple of study periods, I'm like, okay, that's how it is. And then it will start coming back. So
Grammar helps you.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's how I learned Norwegian. Once I found the grammar structure and I figured that out, the vocabulary I just have this thing where I can remember what words mean, and I can remember what, if I have the grammar structure, I can figure out how to plug in the words, and then off I go. I learned to speak Norwegian within 3 months. I was conversing and be able to read and everything, no problem.
That's like Neo in the Matrix. Wow, I know Kung Fu.
They have a Matrix Part 4. What is it, Part 4 now?
It's coming out
Neo.
soon.
Yeah, it's supposed to come out. Was it a Christmas release?
I think so.
So. Yeah, how about that? Yeah. Okay, but life. Mm-hmm. So you're in Paris. You opened yourself up.
Yes.
You're exploring. You're finding out new things about yourself. And then here and there and this and that, and then you end up in Norway. Now, you've been here I'm sorry, not end up in Norway, but you start your adult and professional life here in Norway. Do you feel that you found your place here in Norway? And do you feel that Norway gives you the opportunities that you want?
Well, I think home is wherever I go.
Is that how you feel? Yeah. I need to get there because I'm here, but I don't feel like Norway is home for me. Sorry, people. I just...
Yeah. And that's...
But you let me ask you this then. What about Norway needs to be fixed, and what about Norway is just ideal for you? Let's look at both sides of Norway, because you can't be satisfied with everything.
No, and I think that's true for everywhere in the world, really.
Yeah.
There's always something, like if I do a comparative analysis of the different places I've lived, Norway provides a sort of safety. It's really good for me right now in this creative period where I am, I need to be kind of caved in. And I live in a small, teeny, tiny house that I call the She Cave.
The She Cave, I love it.
The She Cave. And I go in there and I find comfort and warmth, and I paint and I make music and I dance, and I write.
Have you recorded your music there? You recorded your song in a studio somewhere,
Yeah, in
right?
Oslo.
Okay, yeah.
But it's but I write there and
those beautiful paintings you do.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh yeah. And
tell them where your paintings are going to be.
Yes.
You've gotten tell them.
So there's a magazine coming out in November, and it's called the Pleasure Magazine, Nyt Magazine, and it's about it's sex positive magazine and really good and interesting contributors. And my artwork is going to be there. So I make acrylic paintings and watercolors, and the acrylic painting are very much flow, but the the watercolors are erotic paintings. And again, I've been working on the theme of what does she want. And there's a lot of oral sex there in my paintings, and one of them has been picked up to be published in the magazine, and
that's just fantastic.
I'm very excited about it because it's
this your first time being published outside. Yes, I love it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And it's been a long time coming because again, I think your artwork is just amazing. Lexie, you cannot do anything wrong in my book. Everything about you is just
don't put
for what
me
it's
too
worth.
up.
For what it's worth.
The fall is hard.
The fall is hard. Hey, but speaking about that, you don't worry about you seem to not worry about consequences, backlash. There's a lot of people who could look at your painting and say, "Oh my God, that's filthy," and go perhaps. Some Christian group, for example, go on some sort of campaign to censor you. You say some rather some things that I think are beautiful, but others may think are quite profound and need to be reeled in. Do you ever think about that? Do you ever have to deal with that?
Well, that's that's where the shame comes in, but it's not my shame.
Right.
It doesn't belong to me. So, but
that's a strong woman that can say something like that. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that's as well coming back to who I am and who I know to be. And it's interesting you ask that because sometimes I don't think about it. And I do wonder sometimes, like, oh, what's going on here? I know that people are watching.
Yeah.
And they may not engage actively, but then I hear from them like a year later, and then they tell me, how much that changed their lives. And I'm like, what? What just happened?
You never know. When you're in the world of entertainment or when you're in this, the world of being outspoken, you never know who's listening, you never know who's watching, and you never know the effect that you'll have on them.
Yeah.
But along those lines, wouldn't it be something if people were more vocal about the effect? What if these people were to tell you more often? And I'm not saying you're craving that or you're fishing for that, but what if people were to be more vocal and express themselves in return to that artist or to that speaker or to that public figure and actually tell them what they meant to them, what they did for them? Don't you think that would amplify the positivity in the world, and don't we need that?
Yeah, I think
it's a challenge to people, I think, to express themselves when someone has done something for them. Yeah,
I think it's lovely to be able to get feedback, but I think it's also, as an artist, we can't rely on it.
Oh, absolutely not.
Because then it takes center stage. It doesn't become about the message that you're trying to convey or the art, the experience of creating. It becomes about validation, and when it becomes about validation, we give our power away.
Absolutely. I look at it like for my music or for whatever, I need to validate myself for myself. In other words, when I put a song out there for people to listen to on Spotify, it's for people to listen to, but if they don't enjoy it, it doesn't matter to me because I enjoyed the process of making it.
Yes.
So for me as an artist, and it goes also back to my stand-up comedy, it's the same thing. Of course I want people to laugh, but if they don't, I actually find humor in them not laughing. And I obviously thought it was funny when I wrote it. So mission accomplished for me, So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but I validation as an artist is good to experience, but as you say, it should not be necessary for that artist. Otherwise, you're gonna get your feelings hurt a lot.
Yeah, Yeah, because you're gonna depend on that. You're gonna, and also you will have to give equal weight
Yeah.
to both the negative and the positives. And there's a lot of people having opinions about a lot of things they don't know about. So
That's
if you're gonna
very true.
take it all in, you'll be like, oh, inundated with a lot of. I get a lot of DM people sliding in my DMs with strange requests and
I can imagine. Yeah.
but I don't. I look at them and I laugh.
Yeah.
I think, oh, I
Yeah.
might use this for something else later.
Yeah.
Some artwork.
Yeah. Well, I use, if I get a negative response to a stand-up joke or to an entire stand-up presentation, I use that. First of all, I'll laugh. I think it's hilarious when I bomb like that. But then I will also use that experience and try and put it back into my routine and learn from it. And as we say in Norway, finpusse, the routine, fix it up a little bit. And that's more of a learning process for me. I think if the artist or if the expressionist can get to that point where they're taking the amount of negative feedback that they get, but turning it into motivation,
Yeah.
it's just a good place to be as an entertainer, I think.
Take it as motivation, but also who do you listen to? Whose feedback do you listen to? Because it's also important to listen to feedback so that you can make the necessary changes and expand as an artist.
Sure.
But I think it's Brene Brown who says, if you're not out there in the field getting your ass kicked, then I'm not interested in your opinion.
Yeah.
So it's basically, I respect the people who are doing the work.
Yeah.
And if they give me feedback, or if I'm asking them for feedback and they give it to me, then, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Interesting. Listen, as we wind this up, I have 2 questions for you.
Okay.
I'm going to say 3 words, and then I want you to finish the sentence for me, okay? Okay. Lexie Koren is
A multidisciplinary artist.
a multidisciplinary artist. Nice. Okay. Now, the second thing I'd like for you to do, for all my viewers, all my listeners out there, whether you're listening to me on the podcast, watching on YouTube, or listening on the radio, is there something you can tell these people? Because you again, you have this thing, you radiate positivity, you radiate motivation, you radiate love. Can you say something? Oh, I mean that. I every chance I get, Lexie, I talk you up. So thank you for gracing my microphone and my studio here with your presence. So I just want to say that. But can you say something into the microphone now for the people who are watching and listening, something that they can carry with them at least for a few minutes when they turn off this episode here, something they can carry with them to motivate them, inspire them, lift them up? Can you say something?
I'd say something for those who are struggling right now. And it's 2 things. It's okay not to be okay. And you are so worthy of love.
You say that in such a straightforward, and yet the beauty is complex. It's just, I think that's what people need to hear. People need to hear that, and then they need to soak in it, roll around in the mud of it, and then apply it. And then the individual will become better, and then society itself will become better. Lexie Koren on All Things Life, people. All Things Life and Love. I want to say to all my viewers and all my listeners, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your support. Those of you who are listening on a podcast platform or watching on YouTube, if you look in the comments, if you look in the description of this episode, you will see a few links that you can click on if you'd like to support the work here at the Comin Home podcast with John Allen, and now Comin Home with John Allen, the radio program. I truly appreciate you people. Thank you so much for the love. I give you as much love as I can back. And Lexie, thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I just really enjoy coming here and having these conversations with you.
Well, it's been long overdue. And again, that's my fault. But hey, now we're on a new path, and I'm so glad I'm on a new path, and I'm so glad to have you back. So thank you so much. Everybody check out Lexie on Instagram at MS Alexandra Koren, and you will not regret it. It's quite entertaining. It's quite thought-provoking. It's funny, it's fun, it's beautiful with art. Check it out, check her out, and you'll enjoy it, guaranteed. Thank you all so much. Bye now.